SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Estelle's Oxford, the new place on the square to wine and dine. Great steaks and pastas, plus lunch and Sunday brunch. For a full menu and reservations, visit estellesoxford.com and on Instagram. Located on the square at 1112 Van Buren Avenue, next to Faulkner's Alley.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
We have got a lot to cover with you. Thanks for joining us and for being part of the conversation. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. We're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. There is a story right here in the state of Mississippi, in and around Hattiesburg, that is continuing to develop on an almost monthly basis. And that is the excellence that goes along with William Carey University, and specifically its College of Osteopathic Medicine. New rankings from U.S. News and World Report are out. And let me just not spoil all the surprise for you. They are very, very good. Happy to be joined this morning by the president of William Carey University, Dr. Ben Burnett, and the dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine, Dr. Italo Subero. They are with us this morning. And, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Great to be with you again. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Richard, and great to be with y'all. You know I'm an avid listener every morning, so it's good to be on this side, and it's a great honor. And we appreciate what SuperTalk does for us, especially in the Hattiesburg area. We have such a great relationship and been such a good partner. So we're just glad to be with you.
Yeah. I just want to thank you for meeting with us this morning and helping us share this really exciting news that we're thrilled about this acknowledgement.
I don't know how the two of you feel about billboard advertising, but the screen behind you that says number 1, tier 1, number 3, and number 3, I feel like that might look good on the side of an interstate here in Mississippi. Number 1 for highest percentage of graduates practicing in primary care. And number 1 for best medical schools for primary care. That is within the osteopathic medicine groups across the country. Let's stop there and pause just for a second, because Dr. Subero in particular, we know that Mississippi for a long time now has had a shortage of doctors, especially in rural healthcare settings. And we know that part of that shortage has specifically been within the primary care space. Talk to us about what this means, what William Carey's College of Osteopathic Medicine is doing in terms of graduates that it is placing into the medical field.
Well, first of all, Richard, just a slight correction in that this U.S. News recognition is among all medical schools, MDDO. So This is national, among all 300 medical schools that are out there. We are the number 1 medical school for primary care in the nation.
That's even better.
And so yes. So we come to you to say, in 2010, we had our board of trustees made a commitment, to trying to provide a solution to the healthcare challenges of Mississippi, and recognizing that we have too few doctors in these rural communities, primarily primary care docs, which are family docs, internal medicine docs, pediatricians, obstetricians, psychiatrists. And these are the folks that, you go to. These are the doctors that are part of your family. And these are the docs that if you can go, in your neighborhood, you go to that doctor, they're going to help you keep you healthy, prevent illnesses from going forward. And so this was the commitment. We started with the mission to say, when we plant this seed, we're going to have a tree, and this little mustard seed is growing here, And when we plant this seed, what we're going to see are fruits, and those fruits are going to be doctors that are going into our rural and underserved communities and serving them, that are walking with our patients. And this acknowledgement today recognizes that we are doing and exceeding exactly what we've set out to do. And it is a profound blessing from the divine hand of the Lord that guides us and that has shown us the way. And I really believe this fire that you see here is showing us that transformation, healthcare transformation, is afoot in Mississippi. It takes time. It's going to take a little bit more effort, but we are on the right trajectory, and I really believe wonderful things are in the future, and better healthcare is in the future for all Mississippians.
Question for you, Dr. Subro, and I ask this with the acknowledgement that one of my dearest friends is a DO. He was an ophthalmologist and went to DO school before that. Our family pediatrician is a DO as well. Can you explain the difference between DO and MD? Because I feel like there are some people out there that see DO as opposed to MD at the end of their doctor's name, and they go, well, what's different about that?
Yeah. Well, a DO and MD, we both go to school for 4 years, undergraduate medical education. We, as DOs, take the same education that the MDs take, but we have additional education where we are able to learn how to use our hands. We actually can look at the musculoskeletal system as a window to disease. And with our hands, we can do things like physical therapy, chiropractic type techniques. That is an additional toolkit that we've got. Furthermore, it is really a philosophy of a holistic approach to our patient. It's the ability to walk with our patient where they are. So if you come into our office and you say, hey, look, I've got a headache, we don't just give you 2 Tylenol and go home. We want to know, what's going on in your life. Talk to us about stress. What are you eating? How are you sleeping? Are you consuming too many things you shouldn't be consuming, smoking, drinking, et cetera? So we really want to walk with our patients, build that trust. And so after those 4 years, we do the same residencies as our MD brothers and sisters. We come out and we get board certified and we can practice in all states. And the reason the DO kind of brand came out was actually just after Civil War. AT still actually happened to be a pastor as well as a physician. He was a Civil War physician. And he just felt that the contemporary methods of treatment, which, we're giving mercury and bloodletting, things that we don't do anymore, we're doing more harm than good. And so that's what made him kind of look this different approach. And with that, really a foundation in looking at primary care. Most of our doctors or most DOs, a majority will go into primary care compared to our MD brothers and sisters, but we can go into any specialty. For us, it's a dire need here in Mississippi to have primary care docs, and we just completely lean into that mission and embrace it.
Dr. Ben Burnett, president at William Carey, I suppose this is for you, and you'll forgive me for kind of asking 2 questions in one. They say you're not supposed to do that in journalism school, but I think these kind of go together. One, the commitment from William Carey as a university to the state of Mississippi in the way that you're producing graduates, whether it's with the medical school, with the School of Pharmacy, with some of your business students and partnerships that you've built there. Well, let me just ask that. Let me stop there for a second and let you speak to that and that commitment to your home state of Mississippi.
Well, great question. Thank you for asking. I was talking to Lance offline before we came on the air, and was telling him about my background, being born in the Delta, and but spent most of my life here in Hattiesburg, well over 90%. So the state of Mississippi is extremely important to me. I still have a lot of family in the Delta. My brother is actually a primary care doctor in Yazoo City and has been for over 30 years. So to give back to the state of Mississippi is really my whole mission as president. And I feel blessed that God has allowed me to do this. This is my 40th year in the education field. And I feel like this is the biggest blessing I've ever had. But not just graduating the most doctors. This was the largest medical school in the state. As you mentioned, pharmacy students on the Mississippi Gulf Coast graduate, have classes of around 55 to 60 in each class of the physical therapy, occupational therapy, But then we also contribute heavily to the education field. I'm a retired school superintendent, and so I spent 28 years in K-12, and I like it on this side of the fence. You need to know.
Uh-oh. Tell you what, we're going to pause there. We've got a commercial break coming up, and we'll continue the conversation with Drs. Ben Burnett, president at William Carey University, and also Dr. Italo Subero, who is dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine at William Carey University. The timing on that was perfect because we needed to take a quick break as well. There is more to talk about. Percentage of graduates serving in rural areas, percentage of graduates practicing in areas with a shortage of healthcare professionals, and a new facility that is continuing the mission of educating students right here in Mississippi on the campus of William Carey University. We'll get to those topics on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
The One Body Shop.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Glad to be with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Dr. Ben Burnett and Dr. Italo Subero are my guests. They are from William Carey University, the president and the dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine, respectively. Glad to know there are no fires on the campus of William Carey. Also glad to know that the fire alarm works. And I think we're done with that for the day.
Yeah.
Dr. Burnett, the other thing that I was going to ask you about was kind of the symbolism of on the day that these new U.S. News and World Report rankings were announced. You're also cutting the ribbon on this new facility that is part of your medical school and is so important to continuing to educate primary care providers.
Right. Right. Well, it goes hand in hand, and this new Institute of Primary Care, which is a massive addition to our campus for training our students, but also the medical workforce of the whole state or the whole Gulf South, is going to help us continue to be leaders in primary care. And so we owe a lot to the Mississippi legislature, because this was built through Recovery Act money, not Mississippi taxpayer money, but funneled through Mississippi legislature. So this has been a great example of how we can receive help in the state and to keep advancing medical education here in Mississippi.
I'm curious, and I don't mean this from a competition standpoint, because I think both play an incredibly important role here in the state of Mississippi. But when you compare the numbers of your students, your graduates, who's staying in Mississippi to those at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, do those stack up pretty favorably?
Yes. And let's just say this at the outset. The state needs both institutions.
Amen.
We are, just generally speaking, we have the fewest number of primary care docs of any state in the country. And on top of that, about a third of our physician population is going in at retirement age. So, we need as many doctors as we can get into our state. But the one thing about University of Mississippi Medical Center is it's an academic medical center. It's an exceptional academic medical center. And that means they're doing specialty care. That's what they do very well. If you're a medical student training in that kind of environment, you're going to be trained primarily by specialists. And when you're trained by specialists, that's going to inform the direction that you want to, go in your clinical career. For us here at William Carey, our focus, of course, is primary care, But when they go into first of all of our faculty are primarily primary care physicians, meaning family medicine, pediatricians, obstetricians. That's who's teaching them here in the first 2 years of medical school. And then when they go out our students will go into essentially 8 sites throughout Mississippi and a few sites in Louisiana. And these sites are, essentially covering the state of Mississippi. And they are working with community hospitals and community physicians. And with that, they really get great mentoring. And with that, they become part of the fabric of the community. Many of these community hospitals we have built residency programs with. And so a number of our students, while they're there, they decide, I think this is where I can raise a family. This is where I see the next part of my life. And so they're inclined to live there, to be the doc for the local high school football team, to be the doc that's out there in the community and working with the local school system. So for us, it's a different model of training and education, but I think that's why our kids are more likely to stay in Mississippi and to go into primary care.
I suppose this question would be anecdotal in nature based on conversations that you've had with students and applicants along the way. But generally speaking, do your students come into the DO program at William Carey and say, I want to be a primary care physician? Or are they kind of coming in saying, look, I want to get these first 4 years, I want to learn medicine, and then I will figure out what I want to do?
I think for us, generally speaking, one of the big questions in admissions is, are you interested in doing primary care? Well, we look at the history of the student. Or have they gone out and done Habitat for Humanity? Are they out there doing things? Have they gone on mission trips? We really try to look at the heart, and it's not easy, but we do try to look at the heart, particularly in the interview, to see that there is an inclination towards primary care. And for us, at least, the ability to shadow a primary care physician before they come in. So I do think there's a leaning towards primary care. Everybody has to discover, we want to be open to all possibilities, but at least some level of at least an inclination, a leaning in towards a primary care philosophy. I always say my desire is for all of our doctors to be servant physicians. And that means being able to walk with your patient. I think one of the challenges in medicine and why we've seen so much distrust out there, sadly, is arrogance. Looking, not talking down to patients, looking, expecting our patients to just take us at our word and kind of walk out. And, we got to get away from sort of fast food medicine. We got to get away from, you're a disease coming in and here's some medicine. We got to get back to, come on in, you're a human being. We have a dignity of life here. You matter. And let's walk with you and figure out what's going on. Let's get to know your family. And I think that's where transformation really, really happens and where transformation is happening in Mississippi.
I hope this question is practical in nature. I'm thinking about the time when my wife and I were in school together. I was a journalism major that barely got by, although I love what I'm doing. My wife was brilliant, and I think she won every academic award that was given at the time. And she thought strongly about medical school, but ultimately decided that from a family standpoint, that might not be the right way to go because of the length, because of the hours on the backside of that. So, if we've got a high schooler that happens to be listening, in terms of practicality, what are the salaries like for primary care physicians? Are they making good incomes in that role? And what about the time commitment for medical school to be a primary care physician versus specializing in becoming a cardiothoracic surgeon or a neurosurgeon or a dermatologist?
You bring up, it is a very practical question. I'm grateful that you've brought that up. The thing about primary care in the state of Mississippi, it pays very well. You can have a very good living in the state of Mississippi. Now, if you go outside the state, may not be, primary care in general, their salaries are going to be lesser than the orthopedic surgeon or the brain surgeon and things of that nature. But in Mississippi, it is highly valued and very well reimbursed. That being said, what I can share with you is there is a practical cost to medicine. Medicine is costly. Healthcare is costly. We here at Carey and working with our partners are looking for ways to potentially accelerate education in an appropriate way. Is there a way we can get folks through medical school and into residency a little bit quicker, a little bit cheaper, get them out there to be a contributor faster? And generally speaking, primary care residencies are 3 years generally speaking. So they are shorter than going to orthopedic surgery or neurosurgery, which could be 5 to 7 years. But that being said, I always say the student, it's about the heart. You've got to look inside yourself. You've got to ask yourself, where do you see yourself fit? Because if you're a good doctor, you're going to have patients, because that attracts your patient base.
Dr. Burnett, I'll give you the final word this morning. There has been incredible growth, rapid growth within the university as a whole, and specifically the College of Osteopathic Medicine. Can that growth continue, or do you have capacity limitations that will cause you to have to slow just a bit?
It's probably not going to continue and be sustainable at the percentage. We grew, Richard, from last year to this year, university-wide by 14%.
Wow.
Which was more than any public or private institution in the state of Mississippi. That kind of growth is not sustainable. We were almost out of dorm beds on the Hattiesburg campus last year, and our residency applications right now are running a couple of hundred ahead of this time last year. So, we're headed toward a situation going into next year. So we really want to concentrate on who we have now and just to double down. We've done a lot of things around both campuses to make them campus friendly for our students and have the best possible experience. We're renovating dorms. We've renovated the cafeteria. We've just added a lot of outdoor things around here. So our students have a great place to come and live and go to school. We're also looking and planning very quickly on breaking ground for residence halls on our Biloxi campus, at the Tradition campus, where our pharmacy school is, because it also has many of our undergraduate programs down there as well. So,
gentlemen, we are
has been tremendous.
Outstanding. We're up against the clock. I appreciate your time, Dr. Ben Burnett, Dr. Italo Subaro. Outstanding work that's happening at William Carey University and the College of Osteopathic Medicine. Wish you all the best. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next. It's an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Load it up and truck it. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound up, watch on bandit run.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today. The number is 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Always enjoy when we have a chance to visit with the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety in Mississippi. Commissioner Sean Tyndall joins us this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Richard. Beautiful day out there.
Absolutely is. Appreciate your time very much. A beautiful day yesterday for the ribbon cutting of the new DPS headquarters, 146,000 square feet of space and a whole lot of people under one roof.
It is. It was a wonderful day for ribbon cutting, and we were able to get in there and have folks come check it out. And it really is, I think, a great day for Mississippi and public safety as a whole. When we think about the Department of Public Safety, of course, we tend to think of the Highway Patrol and both, the Highway Patrol and our Driver Services Division and DPS were really founded in 1938. So quite a history when you think about the years of history of that. But over the years, it's gotten bigger, and you've added things like the Bureau of Narcotics and the Bureau of Investigations and Homeland Security and the Forensics Lab and all these different things. So we were spread out all over the Jackson metro area, and now all our divisions under one roof, and that's going to improve communication not only within the agency but help from across the state with our federal partners and our local partners when it comes to sharing intelligence and information and just creating a safer Mississippi.
I was going to ask you that next. What's the practical aspect of everybody being in the same place? Is it primarily communication, or is there more to it than just that?
I think there's more to it than that. You know, one of the things that we learned during COVID, and a lot of companies went to working remotely, and I think what a lot of companies and CEOs realized was it's hard to maintain or create a culture that you can control when you work remotely. And what we had was the Bureau of Narcotics was located in Byram. The Bureau of Investigations was located in Jackson. The Mississippi Office of Homeland Security was located at MEMA at Pearl. So we could never really create that culture of working together and sharing the information and the intelligence. So now I think we're going to be able to create that culture that'll permeate throughout the entire agency. So, for example, at the new headquarters, MBI will be on the second floor, and that's where the Bureau of Narcotics will be. That's where the Mississippi Office of Homeland Security will be. And with the recent legislation that passed, we're going to have one MBI. So MBN, Homeland Security, and MBI are all being kind of put together. They'll have their distinct functions that they'll do, but it'll come underneath one MBI umbrella. And by doing that, again, it's about improving those communications. And then the practical standpoint and the cost-saving standpoint for the taxpayers is, and what we found were MBN would be ordering a case management software and pay $25,000. MBI would order the same case management software and pay $25,000. Homeland Security would order the same one and pay $25,000. So we were paying $75,000 for a case management software that if we were buying it for one division, then it would only be $25,000. So there's going to be a cost saving for the taxpayers and efficiency, and we're going to be able to look at limiting some of the administrative costs that we can hopefully turn around and push towards the front line for better equipment, better salaries, and things of that nature. We're also looking to do the same thing with our uniform divisions. You're going to have the Highway Patrol, the Commercial Transportation Enforcement Division, and the Capitol Police will also fall underneath kind of that same model. So again, that we can save money for the taxpayers when it comes to purchasing, but also work better when it comes to sharing information and intelligence. And then when we have a disaster, we can call all those units together and really get out there and respond. Kind of like what we did with the winter storm up in North Mississippi. If you looked around, it wasn't just Highway Patrol. It was our CTED units also out there working the interstates and the roads trying to help MDOT get everything cleared.
One of the things that the Lieutenant Governor talked about leading into this most recent session was shrinking the size of government and eliminating redundancy within agencies and commissions. There were some bills that were about that, and they didn't make it out of committees and certainly didn't get passed. But this did happen with DPS. Now, I know that's not something that popped up last summer, and you spent a few weeks talking about it, and then it just happened. But what went into the process of saying, hey, we do need consolidation under the DPS umbrella. We're going to try to get rid of some of this redundancy. And is that a model that, in your mind, after watching this process happen, that could happen with other agencies under the Mississippi umbrella?
Yeah, look, this started, I guess, a couple of years ago. We had one of the things I've tried to do with our leadership team at DPS and the heads of our divisions is to get together and have conversations. And so we had a meeting down at Camp Shelby where we went overnight, had speakers come in, and I had each division director kind of give me an update of where they were. And where they saw themselves in the future and kind of tell me what their long-term plans were. And I think I took the directors of MBN and MBI off guard a little bit when I said, all right, well, tell me why y'all can't just be one agency instead of working in these different silos. And they both kind of leaned back and I think panicked a little bit. But what it did was it opened up that conversation. Yeah. And then we kept having it. And
once they realize nobody's losing their job, now we can have a conversation about whether or not this makes sense, right?
That's right. And that's exactly what happened. And then they started sitting down and looking at other states, and they went, wow, you know what? Mississippi is kind of an outlier. We're one of like 3 states that actually has a Bureau of Narcotics. Most states have gone to this model of MBI and having a narcotics division within it. But working together. And so they're the ones that came back to me with the plan on how to consolidate this. So I got their buy-in. And once we did that, then it made it a lot easier to go to the legislature and say, look, the heads of my divisions are the ones that came to me with this plan on how to bring these things together. So it's getting that buy-in early on, and I think we can do that throughout government. And one of the things I try to emphasize, and I love Ronald Reagan's quote, I never get it quite right, is if you're not worried about getting credit for things, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. And so I just sat down with him and said, this isn't about anybody getting credit. This isn't about me getting credit. This is about 20 years from now making sure this agency stays on top of public safety and that we can provide the services we need to do it. And it's not about us. It's about serving the state better.
We got a question on the C Spire text line right before you came on, and I chuckled when I first read it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe there's something here. They wanted to know if there was a gift shop in the new DPS building. Well, and the genesis behind that was, there are a lot of people that want to support law enforcement, and maybe that'd be a great way for people to be able to buy hats and T-shirts and hoodies and whatever else. Yeah, we have an apparel store that sells those types of things. Okay. Traditionally, the Mississippi State Troopers Association has operated a trooper store in our headquarters building that was on Woodrow Wilson. In working with the Troopers Association, that they are now kind of doing a DPS-wide store so that when you come in, you can buy apparel that's representative of MBI, the Crime Lab, Capitol Police. So we have all that apparel in there. If anybody's interested in buying, they also have an online forum that you can go to our webpage and get to and look at getting some of that stuff. I will say none of it makes it look like you're a Capitol Police officer. I mean, of course, it's a hat. It might be a hoodie or something that says Capitol Police on it, but it will not. You won't be getting badges or anything official as far as uniforms. Might work for Halloween, but not for impersonating an officer. No, you don't want to do that. Not a good plan there. Hey, so what happens with all of the facilities that you left behind? You talked about kind of being spread out in different places. Obviously, you've got the DPS headquarters right there on I-55, the old headquarters, and then those other buildings you talked about. I don't know exactly what the long-term plan is going to be with the old headquarters. I've heard different things. I know UMMC is interested in some expansion efforts. I know there's also talk of possibly a commercial development somewhat similar to the district along there. Of course, you have the Children's Hospital, the Veterans Hospital, Baptist, and UMMC. So there's certainly a demand to have a nice place to stay for folks. So we'll see. That is a premier corner. One in which I'm sure will be in high demand, and I'm sure something really, really good will come of it that will benefit the city of Jackson. The other great thing about the headquarters is it consolidates a lot of our energy costs and other things so that we're not maintaining all these buildings. I'm just thinking out loud here, and I might get in trouble for this because I know they're down the road with plans. But this brand new cancer center that they're building that is going to be like this beacon on a hill, what a cool location that would be right there on the interstate for the entire world to see as it drives by. Absolutely. I think it was a couple of years ago, I got the bright idea to put a big Santa Claus on top of the DPS building because I wanted the kids at the Children's Hospital to be able to see the blow-up Santa Claus. So, no, that's really cool. That's a great location for something like that. Sean Tyndall is my guest. He's the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. We need to talk about Trooper School and what is going on there and some other things. In terms of day-to-day operation, any disruption in day-to-day operation as you make the transition from all of these other locations into the new facility where everybody's under one roof? Nothing significant. I mean, obviously, for anybody that was moving out of the headquarters building, it took a couple of days to get acclimated, and we did it in phases. So nobody should have seen any sort of major disruption in what we provide. We'll talk troopers, highways, and byways in Mississippi when we come back. Sean Tyndall is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We're back with you right after this. Don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old? Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie. This new life is just a bust. He ain't trying to change nobody. He's just trying real hard to adjust.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
This is where the story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Spring cleaning.
Encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
The radio comes from far away. And when it's night over here, over there, it's breaking
Country music on Wednesdays at MRC. We're glad to have you along for the ride, and also glad to have the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tyndall, in studio as a guest this morning. I had someone correct me on the C Spire text line saying that this is not a trooper class. It's DPS class number 1. Am I mixing up my terminology?
No, it's a trooper school. We've got a group of retirees that want to live in 1980 and 1990, and they don't really realize sometimes that the world's changed around them. So that's where we are with that. But they get a little upset because and look, the new headquarters was named after David Huggins, and he was the colonel at the time when a majority of the NBN agents became state troopers as well. And so that was kind of his vision, and that's kind of where we've taken things. So in this particular class, we do have some folks that are going to NBN. They'll be going to Capitol Police, and they'll be going to CTED once they graduate from the trooper school. But they're going through a trooper school. They will graduate from the trooper school, and then they'll be assigned to some of the different divisions at the Department of Public Safety. So, really it's carrying on a legacy that he created, and one of which I'm proud to do, and I think one in which betters the agency in the long term. So this is Cadet Class 70 of the Mississippi Highway Patrol. And again, we will have some of those folks that graduate will head to the different divisions of the Department of Public Safety to enhance public safety across the state.
What does trooper school entail now? From the time they begin to until the time they finish up from a training standpoint?
Well, it's very rigorous. And one of the things that we did this year was because we wanted to dedicate all our resources towards this training, Malota kind of paused its training academies during that time so that we're not doing local law enforcement training while we're handling this particular class. Okay. And we've tried to emphasize some of the things that are a little more, from the academic standpoint, really making a push on that, making sure that we're covering those details, but not really sacrificing anything that we're doing on the physical side. I mean, all the physical requirements are still there, and we're pushing them, self-defense. We've changed up the schedule some, so it's a little bit different. One of the things that we want to do with these respective divisions is we're going to spend about 5 weeks focusing on, if you're going to Capitol Police, things that you might do as a Capitol Police officer that might be a little bit different than what you'd be doing in the Highway Patrol versus what you might be doing at the Bureau of Narcotics versus what you might be doing at CTED. So there is some specific area training that we feel like's important. And then when they get done, it'll be a trooper school graduation, and we'll finish up, I think it's the first week of June. I think the beauty of that, too, is long-term is if somebody does want to transfer divisions, let's say they want to go from Highway Patrol to NBN, then they can come back and just do the specific portion of that specialty that they can go and learn that particular field of law enforcement. So, again, it's very intense. It's very long. We started off with about 95, 96 cadets. We're down to 55, so, we've lost 40. When you look at our overall screening process, we had about 700, 800 applicants, only 90 got in. Wow. So then once you narrow it down to 50, it's a very tough school to get through. It's very tough to get into. Is
that because of the physical demands or the academic demands?
A little bit of both, to be honest. That's, again, why we've tried to push some of the academic part of it to make that side a little bit tougher, but also the physical part is very strenuous. People show up, but if they're not in shape, they're not going to graduate. And that's fine, because we want the level of the cadets that come out of that to be a step higher than any other agency. And what I've tried to ensure the folks with the Highway Patrol, particularly some of the retirees that are concerned about it, it's not about watering down Highway Patrol. It's about elevating everybody at our agency up to the level of respect and professionalism that we traditionally see with the Mississippi Highway Patrol.
We have a conversation all the time about jobs in Mississippi. We visited with Courtney Taylor yesterday with Accelerate Mississippi. We know about the job or the openings, the employment shortages that exist in certain places. I know we've always talked about you need more troopers, you're not fully staffed. Is there any part of recruiting in the way that Accelerate Mississippi does or other entities within the state are trying to recruit people into the workforce that you're trying to replicate or use some of those tools?
Well, we've tried to do some different things. We had a core program with Highway Patrol that we were trying to work with our community colleges on, where we were, getting in and basically doing like an ROTC type program, but geared towards law enforcement at our community colleges. We had some success with that, but what we've decided to do is go to have a true DPS-wide recruiting team, and making sure that we're getting into these schools and talking to young people about careers in public safety, whether it be in forensics, whether it be on the patrol side, whether it be on the investigatorial side, and really trying to find those young people that are wanting to make a career out of it. And look, I look towards the future a lot, and I think about things probably a little bit differently than most. I know a lot of career paths are worried about AI. I do not see artificial intelligence taking over law enforcement careers. And so I really think there's going to be a push for really qualified people looking for careers that are outside of AI, and public safety and law enforcement's, I think, going to be a big benefactor of that, as we have a lot of qualified people looking for careers. And this is one in which we really ought to be recruiting young folks to look towards.
Sean Tyndall, Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, always appreciate your time. Good catching up this morning.
Glad to be here.
We'll take a time out. We've got more coming up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi rolls on, presented by Community Bank. Got a question. What is CTED? That's the Commercial Transportation Enforcement Division here in Mississippi. Back with you right after this.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Your home.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Well, with us in studio is the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, Mike Hurst. How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
Good morning, Lucian. Great to be here, buddy.
Hey, thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you've got your full-time job that pays you, your full-time job as chairman that doesn't, and I think another job with the RNC that probably also doesn't pay you anything.
No, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So everything's good.
Well, how are things at the party right now?
We're rocking and rolling. We're getting ready for a big statewide gala that we're putting on, the 2026 Lincoln Reagan Trump Gala. So we're getting we got a very exciting special guest speaker. I can't tell your audience yet who that is, but it's going to be a huge event here in Jackson area.
Do we have a location yet for it? Or?
Yeah, it's out at the Sheridan in Flowood.
That's great.
Yep.
And if people want to go get tickets for that, where can they do that?
Just reach out to us at the state party, msgop.org, and we'll set you up.
That's awesome. That's very exciting. What, I assume you feel pretty good about our three Republican congressmen getting reelected?
I think they'll be okay. Yeah, I mean, we're not taking anything for granted, obviously, but no, I think they've done a fantastic job in Congress. I think the voters really like what they're doing. They're supporting the president, supporting conservative policies, and frankly, just making all of Mississippi better.
What about in the Senate race? I mean, obviously, Cindy Hyde-Smith's got an opponent.
Yeah, she does, and he's loud, and he's obnoxious, and, he's supported by out-of-state interests like George Soros and Chuck Schumer and all the typical progressives from the left. But I think Senator Hyde-Smith will do well in that race. What I will tell your listeners is we can't, as Republicans, we can't sit back and just take it for granted. If you look at the primaries, both the Democratic and the Republican primaries back in March, the Democrats had a huge turnout in their primary. And so I've been telling our state central committee at the Mississippi Republican Party, I've been telling any voter that I meet, any folks that we're out talking to, that we can't sit back. We can't have this comfortable mentality that Mississippi is just a red state and we win every time. We've got to get out and work. And I'll give the senator credit. She is out there working. I saw her in photos down at the tornado victims down in the Brookhaven area a couple of weeks ago. And so she's out and about the state. I know she's talking to the president about farmers here in Mississippi. She just had a huge win down in, I think it was Franklin County, the hospital down there, saving that hospital for rural Mississippians. So she is everywhere doing everything, and I think in November she will be victorious, and that's a good thing for Mississippi.
How closely in federal elections do y'all, I guess you can't really coordinate with the campaigns directly, can you?
No.
You've got to do your own effort to get people out to the polls.
Yeah, I mean, we as you know, after the primaries, we can obviously help campaigns, and we do help campaigns, and we do make sure that voters are not only getting out, traditional get out the vote types of efforts, door knocking, phone banking, but also, you know, we at the Mississippi Republican Party, since I've been chairman, have put a special focus on election integrity, just like the RNC is doing nationally. President Trump has led on this. But in the 2024 election cycle here in Mississippi, we recruited and deployed more poll workers and more attorneys throughout the state to make sure every legal vote was counted. And I'm proud of what our state party has done in that instance.
So what all will y'all be doing gearing up for the 26th election?
So right now what we've done is we've appointed an election integrity director at the party. We've appointed a grassroots director at the party. And what we're trying to do is make sure not only our county chairmen are informed, but they're ready, because those are the boots on the ground. Those are the men and women who have the connections in their local communities to make sure we have the bodies that are necessary to get out the vote. And we're trying to coordinate all that from the party. I tell our county chairman all the time, it's definitely a bottom-up organization, because they're the ones that are most important in the Republican Party. They're the ones that are out there talking to voters, getting voters to the polls, and making sure the Republicans are elected.
Obviously, the governor made a little news last week.
No, I didn't see that. What happened?
Wanted to get your thoughts on, there was a lot of excitement, obviously, from people who thought we could beat Benny Thompson this year. Obviously, you've got a nominee in two. I know you're going to work hard to try to get that person elected. That's not the most likely outcome in the 2nd Congressional District. What were your thoughts on congressional redistricting?
What I would tell you is anytime that you play a sport and the game is rigged from the get-go, that is, the Congressional District 2 has been rigged for decades now, because old Supreme Court precedent required the state to draw that as a majority-minority district. So effectively, we did what our Constitution forbids us to do, which is draw a district based upon the color of someone's skin. As the recent Calais case came down from the Supreme Court, that is just repugnant to our idea of a colorblind society and what the Constitution requires. It's exciting the Supreme Court has gotten that right, but we still, as we sit here today, have an unconstitutional congressional district that Benny Thompson represents. And I agree. I think we will beat Benny Thompson. The governor was in a bind, because a lot of governors around the country are getting a lot of pressure to do this. But unfortunately, we had already had our primaries in March. As we sit here today, Lucian, we're about 169 days from the general election. And even if you were to just invalidate the primary and the litigation that would ensue from that, you would have that litigation. We, the party, Republicans, would have to spend money on litigation, on lawyers, on legal fees to try to fight that in court. And, it's just not enough time to turn around and get this done within 169 days. So I would much rather prefer that we spend our donors' money on getting Republicans elected rather than paying lawyers in the courtroom. So it was a tough decision for the governor. I think he made the right decision considering the cost and everything involved. But at the end of the day, Benny Thompson's days are numbered. And I will tell you this, it has nothing to do with Benny Thompson's race. Absolutely not. I mean, I've been trolled on social media. I tell people all the time, I don't care if he's white, purple, red, green. If he's a Democrat, then it's our job as Republicans to get him out of office, because he does not hold the values and the principles that most Mississippians and, frankly, most Americans hold. And I would just ask your listeners, what has Benny Thompson done for the Mississippi Delta over the last 3 decades that he's been in Congress other than enrich himself. And so that's one of the main reasons he hasn't done a thing for the Mississippi Delta, and we've got to get rid of him politically, get him voted out of the congressional district too.
Do you think you can draw 4 congressional districts that are solidly Republican districts in Mississippi?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've seen maps that will achieve that.
We have seen maps. It's not some of the maps that you see online. You know, I know this is shocking that you can't believe everything you see online. Some of the maps you see online with, plus 20 in all 4 districts is just dumb. It's ridiculous. But no, I have seen maps where they are politically Republican majority maps, and it has nothing to do with race. The Supreme Court says states can draw their maps that are race neutral and that are driven by traditional redistricting values, such as compactness, such as not splitting precincts, such as protecting incumbents, such as electing a particular party. And so I think that the state legislature will eventually do that, and I think we'll have better congressional maps for that.
Do you think that we end up with districts that are competitive for Democrats if we do that? I mean, are we going to have purple districts in Mississippi?
I don't think it'll be purple districts. I think one of the dangers, and you hear this even from Republicans, is when you start redrawing these maps, there's just no numerical way to make them all more Republican than they are today. So yes, I think there will be some lowering of Republican voters in some of these other districts, but I think this is necessary to get us to where we want to be.
But you still think they will be 4 winnable districts, even if 1 or 2 of them end up being a little more competitive?
I do, and I know some Republicans don't necessarily believe that, but I've looked at some of the numbers, and it looks pretty compelling to me that it will be 4 congressional districts that will be more likely to elect Republicans than not.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I do think that's one way Mississippi was different than some of these other states. We had already had primaries. The other states have not yet had primaries, and we were unique that way.
And I've talked to others about this. There's actually, I haven't seen any legal precedent against invalidating the primaries, but I haven't seen any for invalidating the primaries. Anytime a court finds a congressional district is invalidated under the Voting Rights Act, they do invalidate the votes, and they have to hold a special election.
Right. You stick with us for another
Absolutely.
second? Y'all stick with us. We'll have more with Chairman Mike Hurst of the Mississippi Republican Party coming up next.
I was shaking at the knees. Could I come again, please? Yeah, the ladies were too kind. Cupid, thunderstruck, 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 thunderstruck.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Hey, this is Bob.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Have with us still Mike Hurst, chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. Josh from Amory on the C-Spire text line says, I thought the special session was for Supreme Court districts. And Josh, you're right. It was for Supreme Court districts, but there was talk of expanding it to include congressional districts. And so that's where that was coming from. And he canceled the special session altogether. But we were talking about this a little bit off the air, Mike. Tell us a little bit about what happened in Virginia, because it does, to me, show how sometimes the game really does seem to be rigged. The Democrats are the ones who are doing it.
Yeah, so maybe your listeners don't know, but I was recently elected general counsel of the Republican National Committee, and so we had a number of lawsuits in that Virginia referendum. And basically what the Democrats in Virginia tried to do was they tried to change the constitutional process of redistricting in Virginia. But in order to do that, their Constitution requires a multi-step, multi-year process to actually change their Constitution. And it requires the General Assembly to propose a constitutional amendment and then have a general election on those legislators and then come back the next year in that General Assembly and actually pass the constitutional amendment and then have a referendum on that constitutional amendment. But what the Democrats tried to do was in about a 5-month period compress all that, just stick it all together, try to pass it, and they did pass it. And the irony is here, we in the RNC were trying to stop the referendum from happening because they did not follow all these constitutional requirements. But the Democrats kept saying, no, you have to let it play out before it can happen. And they did that because they thought the referendum was going to pass. And if they lost in the courts, they could just run to the courts and say, oh, you're violating the will of the people. They have done this. No, you violated the law. And fortunately, the Virginia Supreme Court did the right thing. They looked at the Constitution. They looked at what it required. And they said, no, you guys in the legislature completely violated the Constitution of Virginia, and they threw it out. And for us at the RNC, yes, we litigated that. We had about 3 or 4 lawsuits regarding that. But at the end of the day, the Democrats blew. They wasted almost $70 million on that referendum trying to get it passed. And not even looking at the fact that their Democratic legislators, had just completely violated their state constitution.
And the goal in that redistricting was to create an overwhelming number of Democratic districts.
Yeah, it was going from a 6-5 Democrat-Republican congressional map to a 10-1. And if you looked at the congressional map that they created, your listeners may be familiar with the northern part of Virginia right beside the D.C. area, which is very liberal, very Democratic. And they would make these maps that extended all the way out to the Shenandoah Valley, all the way out to Newport News, all the way down to southern rural Virginia. And they even had a map that was in the shape, I'm not making this up, in the shape of a lobster. That because they wanted to gerrymander so much in order to make sure Democrats were elected.
It does seem, you look at the Northeast, you look at a bunch of democratically controlled states, it does seem like they are deliberately drawing districts that are deliberately gerrymandered to elect Democrats and leave Republicans with no representation in some places.
Yeah. I heard the vice president talk about this on the radio. If you look at a state like Massachusetts, people think of Massachusetts deep blue. Well, actually, almost 40% of the voters in Massachusetts are Republican.
Right.
Yet they don't have one single Republican congressman or woman representing Massachusetts. So to say that we here in Mississippi are trying to, remap our state in the congressional side to make it more favorable to Republicans when we have about 40% Democrats voting. I mean, I don't know how the Democrats are going to argue that Massachusetts has done it, but Mississippi cannot.
Somebody, if you've got questions or comments for the chairman, send us a text at 601-879-4395 at the C Spire text line. One person on here asks, would you support some sort of nationwide ban on gerrymandering? And along those lines, Mike, I'm curious, is there a better system for drawing districts than having partisan legislatures come up with districts that benefit their party?
Well, I think our democratic republic is set up this way, that we elect our representatives to represent our values, our principles. And I would remind your listeners, that's all that political parties are. We're just a group, if you will, or association of people, like-minded people who have come together and said, this is what we believe, this is what we want to fight for, and this is who we want to elect that reflect those values and principles. And that's all it is. And so even if you try to come up with another system, it's going to default to our human nature, which is to try to do what we believe is right, whether it's a Democrat belief or a Republican belief. And right now, I think our system is the best system that there is.
Yeah, I don't think people necessarily realize how much. I mean, it's much more of an art than a science putting together districts.
Oh, yeah.
It's not obvious which county should go in which district. I mean, obviously, to your point, they've got to be contiguous, they've got to be compact, but there's nothing magical that tells you, well, you have to have DeSoto County has to be in this district or you're not doing
That's right. And I've heard people say, no, we just need to, divide the state up 4 ways just across geographically. And I'm like, that doesn't work. We have this principle, this constitutional principle that's called one person, one vote, and which means we have to have close to equal numbers of people in each district in order to be fair, so that one district doesn't have 1 million people and another district has 250,000 people. That would not be one person, one vote. So we got to make it fair.
Well, somebody on here, Joey the trucker on the C Spire text line, is asking why the Thompson district is so big, and that's the reason it's so big.
Yeah.
Because it's geographically large to get enough people that you've got.
That's
equal
exactly
numbers.
right. The Delta is kind of rural, not kind of. The Delta is rural and sparse, and you have to make these districts bigger in order to encompass the numbers of people. Remember, at the end of the day, it's about numbers. It's about having every person has one person, one vote, that we are equal in numbers or close to be equal in numbers, so that everybody has the equal representation in Congress.
So what are you, in terms of messaging that's coming out of the RNC and out of the White House, I mean, what all are you focused on and sort of excited about in terms of messaging as we get into November, or get closer to November?
Yeah, I mean, I think promises made, promises kept. If you look at the immigration issue and our borders were completely open during the Biden administration. And that's not an exaggeration. There are literal videos of, Customs Border agents having to take down fences and just illegal aliens literally flooding our country. And if you look at what President Trump has done, the border is more secure than it's ever been in history. In this last year, there have been zero releases of illegal aliens into the United States.
Wow.
The number of border apprehensions by Customs Border Patrol has fallen to about 94% lower than what it was during the Biden administration.
Because people just aren't coming.
Yeah, they're not coming because, hey, I got a crazy idea, Lucian. We're going to enforce our freaking laws. And so people aren't going to come and just, think they can waltz into our country and take over our country, which is exactly what they were doing during the Biden administration. I think the fraud issue is a huge thing. When you look at what's happened in Minnesota, and you got almost $9 billion with a B, billion dollars.
Amazing.
In money stolen by, whether it's crooks or illegal aliens or foreign gangs or bureaucrats or liberal NGOs. I mean, the president has signed an executive order. He's put his vice president. I mean, can you recall when a vice president was put in charge of a task force? He's been put in charge of the fraud task force. And actually, one of my buddies, a former U.S. attorney from Pennsylvania with me when I was in the Trump administration, Scott Brady, is helping to lead that task force, and Scott's an incredible prosecutor and tenacious and will do a great job. So, and then, I just think there's a lot that has been done over the last, year and a half. And some would argue, and I would too, that more has been done in these last 17, 18 months that Trump has been in office than some presidents can accomplish in a 4-year term. So, we're going to keep fighting for that. The jobs numbers look good. The April jobs numbers came in at about 115,000 new jobs created, whereas the analysts predicted it was only going to be about 65,000. So the economy is booming. Stock market is booming. People are having jobs in record numbers. Wages are up. Trump keeps saying that we are in the golden age of America, and if you just look at the numbers and you look at how people are living, I think that's correct.
It's sort of extraordinary to be. You'd think you'd always have this, but it's nice to have somebody who doesn't think America's in decline,
right?
And that decline is somehow inevitable.
Well, and it's nice to have somebody that the world fears and respects again, because for the 4 years during the Biden administration, we were a laughing stock. The other countries did whatever they wanted to do, despite what America's goals were, and we don't have that anymore. Trump and Vance have made America first in their priorities, and I think that's good for all of us.
Well, it's what you want from your president. We've got about just 30 seconds left, Mike. Any final thoughts before we head out?
No, I would just encourage all of your listeners to we have elections in November. I would encourage you to get educated on those, and I would ask you to look us up at msgop.org or reach out to us. We'd love for you to get involved and help us elect some conservatives, Republicans come November.
That sounds great. Hey, Mike, thanks for being with us. We've had Mike Hurst, the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. This is Lucian in for Richard. Stick with us for more coming up after this break.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
At Key Constructors.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Great, as always, to be with you. It's always a great day when I get to visit with my friend Gary O'Kane. You perhaps know him as Scary Gary. He joins us in studio. Gary, I was just talking a little while ago about I don't think that we could function as a company without you, all the stuff that you do behind the scenes. We appreciate you, and I am most intrigued to visit with you today. How are you, my friend?
All right. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well. So recently, you were on top of the Margaritaville Hotel and Casino, I think working on an antenna of some sort, right?
Right. We were moving the antenna off the AM station to this new location that'll get out farther. And we were putting the pole up on a beam. We had tower climbers there, and Houston was there, and everybody's up on the roof, and we're getting cables laid out, and they're getting the bars ready with the antenna put together. And so, I mean, there's a lot of activity going on, and it's perfectly blue sky on the coast. I mean, it was a beautiful day. Looked up, saw a white speck, didn't think much about it, and just, kept going along. And a few minutes later, we're all kind of standing there waiting on the guy to get the last bolt put on so we could start getting the antenna raised up. And I looked up again, and that white speck was still sitting in the sky. And I said, that'd been 5, 6, 7 minutes, still sitting there in the same spot. And I said, does anybody see the white speck up in the sky? And I pointed, and one of the tower climbers goes, hey, I see it. That's one of them UFOs. And I laughed, and of course, some people said a weather balloon and airplane and all, but it stayed in position. It did not move. And I said, that's just kind of weird. So I pulled my phone out and zoomed it out as far as it would go, shot a picture, and then once I got the picture, I zoomed it in more, and as I zoomed it in, the picture changed. And when you zoom the picture out, it is a white speck in the middle of a white halo, and it's definitely something in the sky. And you can't make out what it is, but it didn't move for at least 15 minutes because I kept looking up after I took the picture. And finally, about 20 minutes, I looked up, and it had disappeared, and nothing else was ever said about it. And, of course, I got to work, and I showed JT my picture and all, and he goes, that's one of them UFOs, I think. And I was like, it could be. It was weird because it did not move in the sky. It was stationary.
Okay.
And
all right. So,
of course, we had aircraft, flying to Keesler go by, nonstop, being there right there on the coast. But this was way up in the sky, and it was not moving. And even a satellite moves. I mean, if you have a balloon in the sky, it's eventually go move some. But it was like every time I looked up, it was basically in the same exact spot.
So what do you think it was?
A speck in the sky. I mean, Lance has got it pulled up. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we're if you're watching on SuperTalk TV, you see it. I mean, it looks like a little bit of some sort of a cloud way off in the sky.
Looks like a donut.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's actually a donut.
No. But
the great donut in the sky.
Yeah.
All right, so is this the first time that you've spotted something like this?
Like this, yes. I have seen some things through my life. I mean, back in 1979, coming back from Florida, I saw a tremendous white light over a cotton field between Kent and Florida, and it was not moving. It was stationary, and I can shut my eyes and see the leaves of the cotton shining because it was just tremendous white light, no flashing, no sound, no movement. It was above a dead old oak tree out in the middle of the field. And, of course, I was by myself, and I kind of got freaked out, and I took off on back to Canton. And then, again, another time, I had a little incident that I wound up 25 miles going the wrong way and had lost an hour and a half.
Oh, we talked about that one, yeah.
And I still don't know what happened on that, but I did see the Elk Road sign at Hattiesburg on 59 twice.
I love that story.
I mean, 98.
Yeah, that was south of Hattiesburg, right?
So you just disappeared. At least mentally. I mean, you think you blacked out? You think you fell asleep?
Well, no. I don't think I went to sleep because, I mean, it was like, I don't know what happened. Let's just say I've gone through that area going back and forth to the coast many a time, and I have sat and looked at it and thought about it. And the pavement, I do remember that basically when I came back was driving, the highway had changed colors to white. And it's been resurfaced up there between the 49 and 59, so it was black. And you know, it was that didn't dawn on me. And the radio show I was listening to on the radio had changed, and the clock was messed up, and I was discombobulated. The next thing I knew, I was coming into New Augusta, and I said, I'm going the wrong way. Well, I mean, it's not but 2 miles from 59, because I kept thinking, how far is 59?
Huh.
And, you know, that was, and Houston left an hour after me, and he got home an hour before I even made it back to Jackson. So,
all right, so I don't want to be flippant when I ask this question, and maybe this isn't the right word to use, but based on a couple of experiences that you've had, do you believe in aliens?
I don't know about aliens, but I mean,
well, and that was the word in particular that I wanted to be careful with.
Let's just say there is something that's watching us. I mean, you know, I don't know what they're doing, but I have seen some weird things, and of course, I keep up with aviation and stuff like that. I've always loved to fly when I was a kid and all. But it's just one of those things that I've seen aircraft, I've seen balloons, I've seen helicopters, I've seen, you know, different. I mean, I saw the space shuttle on the back of the 747 when it come over Jackson, Mississippi, and they were flying it from California to Florida for the launch of one of them. And it was on the back of the 747, and that was some of the biggest air stuff I've ever seen fly in my life. It was just amazing how it stayed in the air even. But, yeah, I mean, it's just...
Have you ever had something else that's out there speak to you?
Not that I know of. I mean, people say I'm, you know, crazy anyway, but hey, you know, your voice is in your head, but it ain't an alien voice.
Well, you've never met a stranger. I mean,
no,
I've watched you interact with people. I've
always said I've never met a stranger I didn't know when I got through talking to him.
Could it have been a Chinese spy balloon?
I don't think it was a spy balloon. I really don't know what it was. I mean, it's you know, it's something to talk about. I mean, it's, you know, it's that you ain't gonna believe this story, you know, kind of stuff, you know. But hey, it's just something I saw, and you know, it's kind of taken on its own life that I really wasn't expecting to, you know, anything to happen off of. But here I am talking about it on your radio show. But I mean. Yeah, who's to say that it's not something out there? I mean, you know, through the years, the astronauts have seen stuff in space, and of course, NASA's cut the feed, and you never, you know, they went to the alternate channel, so you never hear what they're talking about.
So, what do you make of this conversation that's happening at the federal level about declassifying informations, and
they go drop it on us?
What does the CNI know about it?
They go drop it on us that we're not alone. I mean, look at the Artemis 2. I mean, we went farther than any human's ever been in space. Well, yeah, we're humans. But who's to say that there's not somebody that's more advanced that has seen us, and they're kind of like, what are these little ants? You know, it's kind of like having an ant farm. You keep an eye on it, see what's going on.
Do you... Because you have had multiple, I don't want to say encounters. I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe it is. But because you've seen multiple things throughout your life, do you think that whatever's out there is keeping tabs on you?
I don't think they're keeping tabs on me.
They need to be.
Well, everybody's trying to keep that. Where's Gary is the number one question sometimes. But no.
Mowing at Como probably. Or yeah.
But no, I don't think that they're following me and looking, watching what I'm doing and all. But
because isn't there the idea that once you've had an encounter, that it keeps tabs on you individually, whatever it is?
That's the theory. But I don't have these dreams where I feel like I have been visited in the night and all that kind of stuff. I don't have crazy dreams like that, or
you don't feel like somebody's been sitting on you, the weight they talk about.
Right,
yeah.
Right, or you wake up and you got weird marks on you or something. But nothing like that.
All right. Hang with me for a couple of minutes. We got to take a break. We got to pay some bills. We'll talk a little bit more with Gary O'Kane. He is our colleague at SuperTalk Mississippi, talking about some things that he has seen. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
This is where the story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Polyup, Mississippi. This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Lance having fun with the record player in the studio. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. You want to join this conversation with Gary O'Kane, Scary Gary, as he is more commonly known around these parts. You can do so on the C Spire text line. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. Gary, if you had an interaction with another form of life out there, I hesitate almost to call it an alien, what would you say to it?
That's a good question, Richard.
Thank you.
It would probably be kind of a free-for-all, if you could communicate with them. Do a bunch of hand gestures or something. I don't know.
But you would need to ask them which NASCAR driver is an alien.
Yeah, which one's going to win the championship. But no, just ask general questions about where they're from, and just general what you'd ask somebody if you met them at a remote or whatever. Where are you from? What do you do?
How your mama and them?
Yeah, how's your mama?
Do you think if there is life out there, it looks like maybe what we've imagined aliens look like? Do you think they just look like us, or what?
No, I don't think they look like us. Nope. Let's just say I don't think there's another probably creature in the world that looks like a humanoid, because we were made in God's image. So who's not to say that we're in His image instead of an image of whatever they evolved from? Who knows? They could have evolved from amoebas or something. You don't know. It's kind of like dogs. You change two genes and you can get a Chihuahua or a Great Dane. So,
or another life form altogether could have been created by God.
Well, yeah. God's everywhere. So, the universe is God's. So, who's to say that we're all alike? That nobody's alike here on Earth. We all got eyes, ears, and legs, and feet, and all that. But I'm just saying that they may not have ears or or just one big eye or something. Who knows? I mean, you know, you watch all these sci-fi movies that, you know, they're not all little blues or little grays running around.
Casey on the C Spire text line says, my husband and I saw the white object in the sky.
Yeah,
we live just to the south of Federal Crane Land in Ocean Springs. There have been several fires there in recent years. We saw the object and assumed it was a drone from the Forestry Commission taking pictures or video. It was odd that it moved so slowly.
Yeah, I would say that because I saw that on the text line that her and her husband saw it. But
how high do you think this object or
first off,
donut,
it don't look like a drone. Even from high altitude, a drone, you wouldn't even see it unless it was a big drone. I mean, you're dealing with a drone. Most drones are a little bit bigger than a basketball, you might say.
Even if it was the big car size, you wouldn't have seen it up there. That it might have been a little shine. But.
Well, yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying. How high do you think it was in the sky? I mean, you think it was at 30,000, 40,000 feet where airplanes fly, or was it beyond
blue sky.
that?
It's hard to tell. I mean,
I know.
I mean, it's not a cloud in the sky to judge. I mean,
depth perception's tough.
Yes. I mean, if you had a high ceiling of clouds, you could say, okay, well, it's below the ionosphere up there, or different type of clouds, different altitudes. But there was blue sky, so you couldn't really tell how high it was, but it wasn't low. Definitely wasn't low.
So you believe there's something else out there. What do you say to people who are like, come on, man?
Hey, look, Richard, I was 23 stories up on the coast.
Okay.
So I wasn't on the ground. I had a clear view of the sky. And, you know, there wasn't no reflections or nothing like that. And it was just weird. I mean, it just stayed in one place. And
wonder how it would have appeared through a telescope.
Now that, or a pair of binoculars, because that was just a little old cheap, cell phone that zoomed in. If I'd have had a real camera with, a 300 millimeter lens or something with a tripod, you could have probably got a picture of it. But
never have a 300 millimeter lens and a tripod handy when you need them, do you?
That's right.
That's why you got to keep your hunting rifle with you at all times.
I don't think it would reach it.
For the scope, man.
You still couldn't reach it, but yeah, with the scope.
Gary, I appreciate you sharing with us.
Okay, Richard, it was fun. I mean, hey, it's a story. I mean,
it
you
is
can
that.
Believe it or not, but hey, it happened.
It was your story. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Waiting for the UFOs. We are waiting. We are waiting.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next. This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
I feel tears welling up cold and deep inside, like my heart's full of big break. And a stab of loneliness, sharp and painful, that I may never say. You might say that I was taking it hard since you wrote me off with a call. But don't you wager that I'll hide in sorrow when I may lay right down and fall. Is on and here comes
back with you. MRC is presented by Community Bank. We're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances, our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Appreciate Commissioner Sean Tyndall joining us, and happy to welcome another guest to the conversation this morning. Nina Parikh is the director of the Mississippi Film Office. Always a pleasure to visit with. Nina, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Doing well. Always good to catch up with you. What's going on at the Film Office right now as we kind of hurtle through spring and move toward summer?
Yeah. Well, actually, can I make one correction? We changed our name. We are Film Mississippi now.
Film Mississippi. I'm going to, I think you probably told me that last time, and I didn't write it down and highlight it and get it in bold. I will get it right going forward. Film Mississippi.
Film Mississippi. I'll tell you, I'm still having trouble spitting that out of my mouth. After being in the office for 28 years, it's hard to retrain the old brain to Film Mississippi. Well, we are Film Mississippi, and we have been busy. I am certain some of your listeners have heard that John Travolta has been on the Gulf Coast working on a movie. He is 7? In a romantic comedy.
Okay.
On the Gulf Coast, which is so exciting. I mean, one, we don't normally get romantic comedies. Two, who gets a romantic comedy with John Travolta? So I think that there have been some sightings down there. It's pretty interesting and exciting to have that going on. The last time he was here, it was in an action film called, it was in the Cash Out series. And to have him back down on the coast for a different genre is really, really fun.
You and I think, have talked about this before, but the film industry has changed so dramatically from what we grew up with, where movies meant going to a theater and sitting there and watching it on the big screen, and Hollywood was whatever Hollywood is. It's just not like that anymore, with so many independent producers and films that are going straight to streaming platforms, be it Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is. How has that changed what you are doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
That's a great question. Not only is there a difference in the screens that we watch things on, but the whole industry is shifting. The big Marvel movies, some people might realize that there are these big Disney and Marvel movies happening, say, like in places like Georgia. They're really booming because of where the economy is these days, and so, politics and socioeconomics, et cetera. A lot of those big movies are now going overseas because it's more affordable for them to do them there. That doesn't really affect us too much, fortunately, because we've always kind of lived in this independent film space. And I'll say that's we're navigating that along with all these different new formats. So right now we have a couple projects that are looking at us for something called verticals. Have you heard of this? A vertical?
Tell me about it.
They are episodic shows on your phone. So vertical, because you look at your phone vertically and not horizontally, and they are 1 to 2 minute episodes. So it's just like a cliffhanger after a cliffhanger. So there might be like 60 actual episodes in a particular show. So this is a whole new universe for us. We haven't had one filmed here yet, but we do have projects looking at us. So we're doing everything from John Travolta to content on our phone. And what I like to say regularly is, like, every screen that we have, whether it's our the big screen, our computer screen, the screen in our pocket, content has to be made, so there's no reason for that content not to be made here in Mississippi. We have a growing base of trained crew and vendors here that are used to working with the film industry now. So we just keep selling ourselves to every new platform that exists. We're actually going to be at Series Fest. This is a new event for us to market at, Series Fest in Denver in May. And we're going to try to get in front of the series content creators. So hopefully we'll see that. I always mention this, and I know I sound like a broken record, but hometown. We're in season 10 now. And if we could have 10 hometowns around the state, people would be working all year long, and that would just be incredible. So that's what we hope, marketing to things like at places like Series Fest. There's also Real Screen, which does unscripted. So we're trying to get into those spaces, and we're not so much worried about the big, huge tentpole movies, because that's not where we normally fit. We'd love for them to come here if they do.
Yeah.
But that's not really how our infrastructure is built at the moment, and we're just getting out there.
It was so funny when you were talking about verticals. I remember you used to take a picture like this, and your kids would yell at you, "Don't be an old man. Turn the phone landscape so you do it like this." And now if you do that, you're the old man because everything has to happen vertically for the vertical video content, or also for the gram, of course, for Instagram. So it's like you have to stay in step.
It's true. I teach a class at Millsaps, an intro to filmmaking class, and for the 20-some years that I've taught that class, I have told my students, if you shoot your film with your phone and you shoot it vertically, you will get a 0. Clearly, that doesn't hold anymore.
Not anymore. Not anymore. When you brought up Georgia a second ago, I was thinking about the strategy that exists with Film Mississippi. The state of Georgia has poured billions of dollars into the film industry and trying to attract big movie sets and big films and sound capabilities and editing capabilities and all of these things. And now they're in a spot where they're seeing that, I won't say blow up in their face, but losing some of that. Is the strategy in which Film Mississippi invests into the film industry and tries to recruit a long-term strategy that makes more sense than maybe pushing all the chips into the middle of the table the way Georgia has, and to some degree Louisiana has?
I think so. I know so. We started our incentive program in 2004, and at that point it was only 10%. And our strategy was, like the tortoise and the hare. We're slow and steady. Let's grow grow with what starts to come here and grow in conjunction with that. So we've gone from 10% to now 25 to 35%. We now have some crew base. We now have some infrastructure, and that infrastructure is being grown by our locals. It's not necessarily something where a company's coming in here and swooping in and benefiting from our industry. Our locals are building it from the ground up. We have companies, a company in particular started as a production company, then started to invest in some equipment. Now they're moving into a post-production facility. And so we love to see that growth of our Mississippians seeing where there's an opportunity in growing their own businesses and employing people in our communities.
What is the overlap in your mind in terms of behind the camera between film and television? And I'm talking specifically about jobs within this moving video content space.
It's pretty seamless between film and television. Everything, when I was still freelancing in this industry, there was a very distinct difference between something that you shot on film or shot on video. And I was a camera assistant, and I was a camera assistant for film mostly. I did not work that often in the video space. So with film, I'm handling actual physical 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter film, and that's just not the case anymore. All of it's some sort of video content, digital video content. So it's pretty seamless. There's slight differences. Maybe the pace is different. So in television, you're going to move a lot faster. On film, you might have more specialized technicians because you're really shaping the light in a particular way. Obviously, in film, because you have sometimes special effects, more so than maybe something that's unscripted, so there's some specialization in the film part, like the feature film part, but, a crew can work across both genres and mediums, and it's pretty great. We get a project that lands here, whether they're doing a vertical or a feature film, our crew is able to adapt.
A lot of opportunities that exist for people that are creative and like the idea of being in this space. Nina, always appreciate your time. Great to catch up with what is happening at Film Mississippi. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Thank you.
We're back after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
We'd make a good movie. I can just see it now. The story of us and our great love would win an Oscar, no doubt. And it would be one.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
3 families.
This is an encore presentation of the Best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Welcome in. You've got it locked into Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless. All designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Happy to welcome our next guest this morning. He lives on the coast and works with Chevron, government affairs manager with Chevron Products. And Alan Suddeth joins us right now. It's kind of going through and looking at Alan's background, and you want to talk about someone who has covered the state of Mississippi, an undergraduate degree from Mississippi State, a law degree from Ole Miss, and an MBA, I think, from William Carey as well. You've got the bases covered.
I really enjoyed college. I spent a lot of time in it.
Are there days where you're like, if I could just go back for one more degree, that might be a good plan?
Not many days. Not many days.
Alan, I appreciate
what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and I feel like you probably have your hands full as well. Working with Chevron, such a massive presence on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and such an important partner within the business community in Mississippi. But so much going on when we think about refineries and major gas companies, the work that's going on with oil and importing oil. What does your day-to-day look like?
First of all, thank you for having us on today. Glad to talk about this. And you're right, it's a topic that's top of mind to a lot of folks right now. And that's with the supply issues going on in the Middle East, with Chevron's long-term 100-plus year presence in Venezuela, and with this refinery's ability to process heavy sour crudes like Venezuelan crude, we've really been spotlighted in a good way. Not just this Chevron refinery, but also the state of Mississippi, our energy policies and the ways that we support business here allows us to operate, allows us to be able to be a part of providing affordable and most importantly, reliable energy to this part of our region.
So where is the bigger effect right now? I mean, there's so many eyes that are focused on the Middle East, on the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade, the closure, the stranglehold, however you want to describe that, and that ongoing conflict. But we're only a few months removed. It was right around the first of the year where Maduro was removed in Venezuela, and this policy change kind of went into place in terms of more Venezuelan oil coming to the United States. So is the bigger issue for Chevron right now in the Middle East, or is it closer to home in Venezuela?
The bigger issue, I think, for the industry is the Middle East because of the volume of supply that's been taken off the market. It's a global commodity, crude is. So it affects all of us. We're all vying for the same commodity, the crude that we all need to make fuels. However, having Venezuelan crude come up and the administration giving us the opportunity to process it here, just the proximity and the type of crude it is has made our situation on the coast a little less severe than, say, in other areas. The prices have gone up because of the supply-demand differential, but there's some parts of the country, some parts of the world that are actually limited with crude or maybe even going without. So of the problems to have right now in this environment, we are here, particularly in the southeastern part of the United States and the eastern part, are benefiting from the fact that Venezuelan crude is coming back online and we're able to process it.
Has there been any effect on the Chevron refinery there in Pascagoula based on the Middle East, or has production and processing overall been up because of Venezuela?
Well, crude prices have gone up, so sure. That's a cost to our business. But we have been we've been able to get crudes at the appropriate levels. We process about 370,000 crude barrels of crude per day. I'd like to put that into context. Not everybody knows. I didn't know much about what a barrel was, but if you consider, as far as trying to figure out what 370,000 barrels is a day, if you took a container that was the size of a football field, if you need to fill it up, it'd fill up to 33 feet high. That would be 370,000 barrels of crude. So that's a lot of crude that we process each and every day, which means we need a lot of it.
So if you walled off a football field and turned that into a 3.5-story building and filled it, that's the amount of crude oil that you process daily?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Feels like a lot of oil.
So, because it is. We're supplying millions of gallons of gas to hundreds of service stations, convenience stores throughout the southeast Mississippi. We're a major supplier of fuels, and particularly jet fuel, to the Panhandle and western side of Florida. So we're having to get out fuels to a lot of people every day, and so that requires a lot of crude every day. The Central and South America has a good bit of crude availability. The Gulf has crude production is up domestically. So where we are proximity-wise, we're able to access a good amount of crude, and it's crude that we're designed to build to process. Heavy sour crudes, or like the ones that come from Venezuela, are what this refinery in particular has been. We've invested in over the years to be able to process. So we've got the availability, we've got the proximity. We're having to pay a bit more for it, like everybody else is, but we're able to provide those products to our part of the world.
Forgive me for what in your world is probably an elementary question, but I don't have a petroleum engineering degree, so I'm learning on the fly here.
I don't either. That's the one degree I don't have.
Okay. Well, see, maybe there is an opportunity for you to go back to school for one more degree. Crude comes out of the ground, whether it's in the Gulf or in Central or South America, and it makes its way to the Chevron refinery in Pascagoula. What happens then?
We heat it up. The first fundamental thing we do is boil the oil, as some say. Okay. And as you heat it up, it distills. We have distillation columns that heat it up, and it separates. At the hotter you get it, there's the lighter end products that rise to the top of the column, and then the intermediate products are different levels within the distillation column based on their heat. Then we have these trays that the product has it's a vapor type light in. It settles on those trays, and then it's shipped out or piped out for further processing. But that's how the initial first pass of what you do with crude is you heat it up to separate it into kind of general products, your chemicals, the lighter end products, and you've got your distillates and your fuel type products, and you've got what we call residuum at the very bottom. Those are sent out for further processing to be more refined into the products that we use every day.
So, and I guess I'm trying to use a small number just for understanding. If a barrel of crude comes in and it gets heated up, how many gallons are in a barrel?
42.
All right, so 42 gallons of oil come in a barrel, of crude come in a barrel. Of that 42 gallons, how much gets used, and how much is waste out of that?
Great, all of it.
Really?
In fact, some like to talk about the fact that we actually inject some intermediate products into the process. So we talk about we get about 45 gallons of fuels and products out of 42 gallons of crude. Huh. But of that, we have all the way up to the lighter end products and the chemicals provide chemical feedstocks that we ship out. I'd say the middle part is what we make into the products that we're most familiar with, the fuels, jet fuel. We make premium base oil feedstocks here, and that go into premium base oil products like motor oils and lubes. And then at the bottom is this, what I was referring to earlier, particularly for our heavy sour crudes, it's called residuum. And it's the heaviest part of this crude that's left over after we've separated out all the lighter products. We take that through a unit called the coker that we extract even the last remaining, if you will, fuel and available products out of it. And what you're left with there is a kind of a coal-looking substance called petroleum coke, and that is shipped out overseas for furnace-heated stuff. So we use that. Even the things we extract, a sour crude is a crude that has sulfur in it. So one of the things we have to do is extract the sulfur out. We actually sell the sulfur on the open market as well.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. You got time to hang through the break and talk a little more?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Alan Suddeth, Government Affairs Manager with Chevron Products Company. We're going to take a quick time out. We've got more with him and more with you on the other side of this break.
Richard Cross next.
I'm Rex Baker with
is an encore presentation of the best of mornings with Richard Cross.
Mornings with Richard Cross rolls on with you, presented by Community Bank. Alan Suddeth is my guest, Government Affairs Manager and Public Affairs Manager with Chevron Products Company, which is not exactly the same as Big Chevron, right?
That's right. There's subdivisions within any organization, corporation, and this is on the side that refines the products and gets the products out to market.
Okay, very good. I want to ask you about Venezuela. You mentioned a 100-year relationship that exists between Chevron and the country of Venezuela. In the immediate aftermath of the Maduro removal, President Trump brought leaders from a number of oil companies to the White House and said, hey, we want to see investment. There were some that pushed back on that a little bit because of instability, questions about what the future might look like in terms of who was going to be in charge. Was it different for Chevron because the relationship already existed?
The short answer is yes. We had been there for 100 plus years. We had remained there even through several of the leadership changes, and we had less. We were already there, already set up, already operating. And able to, at a much less capacity than what we had, say, decades ago. But we were able to kind of start up a little quicker and be a little more flexible because we were there and operating.
What did that look like for Chevron as a company? Because we know that, especially under the Maduro regime, it was unsafe for lots of people. It was unsafe for Venezuelans who lived there. Certainly, it was unsafe for those that were not native Venezuelans to live there. So, in terms of operationally, how did that work with so much instability and violence under the previous regime?
Generally, I would say, of course, not having experienced it directly, I can tell that folks who've been there talked about the fact that Chevron has always been about safety for its employees. And so we implemented a lot of safety measures, had a lot of safety personnel on the ground that helped to keep our people safe and the assets safe there. And I think I would speculate, knowing how Chevron operates everywhere else, particularly here in the United States, that we invested in the Venezuelan people. We built relationships with them such that allowed us to have a meaningful relationship with the community in which we operate. And between our security and safety measures and relationships we built, genuine, authentic relationships, I think that allowed us to remain there and operate, even in a limited capacity.
I also wonder if, because of what Chevron was providing for Venezuela, if it's almost like there was no, don't mess with them because they matter to us, regardless if we all agree in how the country's being run or who's in charge or whatever, that relationship was so important that there was almost like a don't touch them piece of it? And I don't know the answer to that
Maybe
question
so.
at all.
Yeah. I would not be able to speculate about what the thought processes are of the governments and the regimes in Venezuela, but that would not surprise me. Crude oil is necessary. It certainly generates revenue, but it also provides products folks have got to have. So energy is so valuable to us. I'd say the country itself of Venezuela and to the surrounding areas that. I got to believe everyone would recognize that having an energy company operating is good for everybody, including themselves.
Yeah. What's it been like in the 4 months since Maduro was removed? In terms of, you talked about at one point during that 100-year window, production was high. That backed off a little bit, so it may have been more limited. Do you see it ramping back up to a decades or multi-decades ago level?
I'm not sure what the future holds because, as you noted, the instability of kind of what's going on there, the dynamics. But we've been able to ramp up production somewhat since the Maduro incident. We've gotten up to about 400,000 barrels a day that Chevron is producing in Venezuela. That has related into now that we're in compliance with U.S. Rules and regulations, the U.S. refineries, including the Pascagoula refinery, are able to process that Venezuelan crude. So we're up to about 100,000 barrels a day on average of Venezuelan crude that we're processing right here in Pascagoula. We're also processing about 50,000-ish of that at our El Segundo in Los Angeles, California, our refinery there. So we're about 150-ish of that 400 is being refined by Chevron crude by Chevron refineries. The other remaining is being used by other refiners here, primarily on the Gulf Coast.
The 300,000 plus barrels a day that is being processed on the Gulf Coast that you referenced a second ago, is that at full capacity for what the refinery is capable of, or can you go to 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 a day with the current infrastructure?
Yeah, we try to operate this thing as close to capacity as possible, as safely as we can. Sure. So that 370 is right there near the limits. Folks need fuels. Folks need our products. We're running this refinery 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so. There's not really an opportunity to kind of back off or do less. We're running pretty much max capacity all day long, every day.
How long has the refinery been in Pascagoula?
We started construction in 61, and it began operating in 63.
And then have there been additions along the way to increase capacity and grow the site there, or is it kind of as it existed in the early 60s?
No, when we first built this in 63, it processed about 100,000 barrels a day, and that was light sweet crude. Okay. The kind of less viscous, thinner, and less things like sulfur in it. Those lighter, sweeter crudes that we get but over time we've invested in units like the coker, like a sulfur unit that allows us to process pretty much any crude we can bring into this refinery, including those heavy sour crudes. But it was 100,000 barrels a day of light sweet. Today it's about 370 of heavy sour and anything in between.
Alan, if I said I'm going to task you with being in charge of opening a brand new refinery, we've got the space here on the Gulf Coast. I want to invest the dollars that it takes to do this. What would it cost to build from scratch today a new refinery that has a capacity that's somewhere close to what you're doing?
Several billion.
Okay.
But there's a lot to get there. One is the environmental conditions, environment that exists today is a lot different than when we were building refineries hundreds or plus years ago. This refinery at 60 plus years old is one of the newer refineries, more recently built. that it's just so difficult to get through the environmental issues to even get that built. The other part is you need regulatory stability to get the return on investment of that. If you're going to put billions of dollars into something, like we learned during COVID and when we had the demand destruction, when folks started shutting down refineries, when the opportunity came, when crude prices started going back up and people started buying more gas, and we started the capacity started, the demand started outreaching the supply, folks were saying, well, let's get these refineries back online, and folks were selling them. The reason they were selling them was because they looked down the line. They said that what the cost was just to get them back online wasn't worth the investment. They weren't going to get that investment back over a long period of time because of the uncertainty, certainly the administrative outlook at that time and kind of the outlook for the oil and gas industry. Folks were saying it doesn't make sense for us to invest that kind of money. So investing in a new refinery today is even more challenging because you don't know what the future holds, particularly from a regulatory standpoint.
So if you knew with great certainty, not to make this overly political, that Lee Zeldin was going to be running the EPA for the next decade and that you were going to have an administration that was pro-reduced regulations, then maybe it makes sense to make that kind of a long-term investment and plan. But with the uncertainty of who's going to be next and what that appetite's going to be, it's hard to make that investment?
The latter part is certainly true. The refining was kind of at a good steady state as far as demand, supply and demand. We are looking to make vehicles more efficient. There are fuels that are able to help us run longer, hybrid vehicles. A lot of things that folks are investing in technology has allowed us to extend the length of a gallon of gasoline to where as demand kind of marginalizes, particularly here in the United States, the refining capacity is capable. We just don't need to be losing refining.
Sure.
So whether it makes sense to build a new refinery today may be, there'd be several factors involved.
Yeah. Alan, I can't thank you enough for your time. I hope we can visit again soon. Really fascinating conversation, and wish you all the best.
Really enjoyed it, Richard. Thanks for all you do, and hope you have a great rest of the day.
You as well. Alan Suddeth from Chevron Products. We'll take a timeout.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
This is where the story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
I surely miss your tender kiss. Don't leave me this way. Baby, my heart is full of love and desire for you.
Welcome back to the most varied selection of bumper music in broadcast today.
I hope
Thank
so.
you, Lance.
I was trying to roll call it a little bit,
Haven't heard an accordion this morning. That's the only thing we've missed.
There was one in there very early.
That's right. There was.
I'm never going to go without an accordion player.
I should not doubt you. I really shouldn't.
Well, with the talk about Louisiana, I should have put out some Boffle Brothers. I just, didn't.
Trombone Shorty.
Oh, I love trombone. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, we just talked about it yesterday. They got an exhibit for him at the Grammy Museum in Cleveland. He won the Americana Award. Anyway.
Hey, Mississippi, when we compare it to Louisiana, the only thing I want to say is there's such a unique and wonderful history. So many stories that, I personally would love to be the type guy that got to go out and do all the investigation on like the Witch of Yazoo and the Pascagoula stuff and tell it from a Mississippi perspective. We get a lot of people that talk bad or talk good about Mississippi, and usually they ain't from here. And, we don't have a lot of organic content here with these types of things. So, I've always just been of the opinion that this is a great place filled with great people, the checkered racial past that we've seemingly tried to get beyond. Obviously, there's always work to do, but when you compare us to Louisiana politics, man,
we're doing great.
We're doing if that's the baseline of comparison, man, we're batting 1,000.
We're doing fantastic. A couple of things I do want to mention before we get out of here. Today is Canton Flea Market Day.
Oh, how much fun is that? Goodness.
Grab your dollars, baby. Head on up or on down, wherever you're at, and go, because it really, if you haven't been, it's a really cool event. It's
like a bazaar, an outdoor bazaar, if you want to put it that way. The market.
Yes. It's second to none. And I know people that even in the spring version of this, they start doing Christmas shopping now.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't work that way.
No, I know people that do that. They actually buy up stuff early in the year and then they'll put it away. Man, I would have it so lost, I wouldn't even know where it was.
If I'm Christmas shopping in May, I'm Christmas shopping for somebody I forgot this last Christmas. That's the only way that's going to happen.
Send them a good old piece of fruitcake. You're good to go, huh?
If your life is more organized than I let mine become, and you want to get some done early, today's a good day to do it at the Canton Flea Market. Did you see the fire that happened last night in Hazelhurst? This was a big deal. Was a big multi-story building, like 4 stories tall. This was a big fire. In Hazelhurst, they had to call in the fire departments from Crystal Springs, Copiah County, Byram, Terry, and Raymond. All had to respond to that fire in Hazelhurst. Haven't seen any more information on it in terms of any injuries or anything else that may have happened, or even if they got it out. Last we heard, and really it was early this morning, that it was going to take a while for it to burn out because it was pretty fully engulfed. And they were just going to kind of have to let parts of it burn and manage it to keep it from spreading to other buildings. So I just wanted to put that on your radar because it's something that happened also. Georgia, Brian Kemp, the governor over there, they have now set a special session for next month to redistrict.
Mm-hmm.
This continues to spread. Governor Reeves said yesterday, he was talking on Mornings with Richard. He's all for it. He is all for redistricting the congressional districts in the state of Mississippi. Probably not going to do that until next session at the earliest, next regular session starting in January. And I said this yesterday on the show, makes sense to me because we've already had primaries. That's going to be a giant hairy mess if we tried to do it right now.
It'd be tough, yeah. Like I said, litigation's coming one way, that you got to that's what you got to really get ready for, right? It's going to be challenged.
Oh, somebody's going to scream. Mm-hmm. You could hand out, I got a story I got to tell you one day if I hadn't told you yet. I literally once got cussed out for giving someone a brand new car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, literally live on the air. I'll tell you that story sometime when we're off the air, so that I can do it accurately.
Need illustrations,
yeah, with the and it takes a minute to tell that story properly to set the stage. But it doesn't matter what you do; somebody is going to scream about it.
Yeah,
this one especially. So we'll wait and see where that winds up. But Supreme Court's a Supreme Court. You can't say that they set the law of the land only when you agree with it.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
and that's where we're at right now.
One little quick update before we parachute out of here. The Dow is flirting with 50,000. Been over it a couple times, right under it right now. So we'll see how it goes today. Closing above that 50,000 is a pretty big psychological hurdle. So we'll see if it can do that.
Round numbers are scary.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll bite you. Enjoyed it, man, as always.
Yes. I enjoyed so have a wonderful Friday, brother.
Or Thur Friday.
Or Thur Friday.
Or Thur Friday, yeah. See ya.
Thank you for listening to this encore presentation of the Best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.